Instructor at the Nakalva Polytechnic College in Hanover, Randa Taylor, says reducing emissions is important for climate smart farming.
These include practice rotational grazing to sequester carbon in the soil. So while we have the animals in the pastures, we do not want them to totally graze every day. So we will partition the pastures and we will have animals be in, for example, pasture one today. And by the end of the month, we will remove those animals to another pasture that would have enough food for them, enough forage. And so we will continue that process. In doing so, the carbon that is in the soil will significantly reduce, and therefore climate this will reduce any form of emission. We also can manage manure to reduce methane and nitrous oxide gases. By doing this, we can cover the manure storage facilities. So the area that we would have dumped the chicken litter, the goat feces, the cow feces, and so on, we can cover these areas so that the excessive emitters or the excessive gases are not released into the atmosphere.
There are several sustainable practices that farmers can use to help mitigate or reverse the effects of climate change.
Some of these practices include zero tillage, where they will not be using any form of technology to prepare land for farming. They can also use crop rotation, where they will plant crops at different times on the same piece of land. They could also do contour farming, where they will organize their crops, though the crops may be planted on steep slopes. So that too will help to reduce or mitigate the effects of climate change. Of course, they can also use plastic mulching, where they will cover the soil, and in covering the soil, that will prevent excessive carbon dioxide and other gases to be released into the environment. And of course, they could use protective structures, for example, the shade house or greenhouse technology. And these are among many others that farmers can use to mitigate or to reduce the effects of climate change.
However, there are not much approaches farmers can take to protect their livestock from natural disasters.
It is quite prudent that the farmer or farmers take the animals or their livestock to a secure area on the farm, especially when these animals are heavily laden with young ones, so the mothers may be pregnant, right? So it is important that the farmer will take these animals to higher grounds, elevated areas, so that they will not be soaked in the rain. And of course, we know what will happen there. So if these animals are soaked in the rain, they can, of course, die. And what's going to happen? The farmer is going to lose tremendously.
Ms. Taylor outlines some agricultural practices that could help to reduce crop loss.
One, we could do cover cropping, such as the cultivation of cucumbers, pumpkins, watermelons, any vine crops, sweet potatoes. So what happens here is that these leaves, they will break the velocity of the rainfall. And so when the soil is covered, the impact of the raindrops will be significantly reduced. Also, the crops will reduce the buildup of carbon dioxide in the soil. And we know that carbon dioxide is an important gas in the production or the manufacturing of photosynthesis. Another practice that can be used to reduce crop loss is rainwater harvesting. So farmers can set up their containers along with their gutters to harvest the rainwater. And this, of course, they can use for their domestic purposes. They can use it to feed their livestock. And for sure, they can use it to irrigate their crops. They can practice intercropping, where they plant more than one crops on the same piece of land. So they can be harvesting, for example, corn this month, Another 2 months down the road, they could be harvesting sweet potato and so on. So this too can help to reduce crop loss due to climate change.
In addition, she says organic farming can be used to improve the health of the soil.
Integrated crop and livestock forestry system. Yes, farmers can integrate their crops and livestock, and also they could be planting their forest trees. So they could have their timber trees, their cedar, their teak, their maho. They could be planting as well other crops, and of course they have their livestock. So when they will harvest the crops, the refuse from the crops can be used, all right, to feed the livestock. They can also use for mulching. They can use to add back, valuable nutrients to the soil. Another adaptive measure is to utilize rainwater. And of course, the farmers can implement catchment systems such as their plastic tanks. So the Rhino, well, that's a brand, but those big, thick plastic tanks, they could utilize those to capture the rainwater. And they could set up their guttering, right, so as to maximize on the catch from the rains. Another adaptive measure is to increase soil health by using more organic fertilizers. For example, compost and animal wastes. All right, so when we fill our soils with healthy fertilizer, I'm not saying that the inorganic fertilizers are not beneficial, but I'm saying that the organic fertilizers are more beneficial to the soil in that it will provide that buffer. It will give that support system to plants, to plant roots. All right, the healthier the soil, the better your crops, the better yields you will get from your crops.
Ms. Taylor says farmers ought to practice climate smart agriculture in order to boost food security.